Welcome to Ask Earl Anything. This is the show where your questions make the show. Without questions, I don't have very much of a show, as you all know. This month we do have some questions. This is October 2022, and I have a slew of questions from September's last Ask Earl Anything show, and some questions during some videos and other things I found. Now, a couple things as a starter. This past week I was out of town. I was traveling. I can tell you that traveling for business is not what it used to be. Hotels are not as much fun to eat at. Hotels are not as much fun to stay at, and flying is not very much fun at all. So with that being said, that's why this week I was a little bit delayed in putting out videos. I was very busy with work and doing my day job, which I'm supposed to be doing, and which basically pushed some of my videos to going out in the evening versus the morning when I normally get them out in the morning and then I start work. So I was actually showing up at operations quite early in the morning last week. With that said, one of the videos I want to highlight is my grandson Asher's video. Asher did a video cover of Africa. Now, a few weeks ago I did some covers where I had my two grandsons, Elliot and Asher, running around the room, recording with two cameras. And we had a lot of fun that day because they were staying over the night. So I recorded a drum cover with them running around, and then I recorded the drum cover with Asher, and I even did one with Elliot. You will never see Elliot's video. I don't think Elliot would want me to show you that video when he's 12 or 13. Now, by the time he's 12 or 13, he could be better than Asher. Who knows? But Elliot is a budding drummer too. He's just not quite there yet. But Asher has been taking some lessons from me over the years. I've shown him a few things. That's what taking a lesson is with Poppy. Poppy shows you how to hold the sticks. Poppy shows you a couple exercises to practice. Poppy shows you how to play a groove, sends you home, and you practice it, and then you come back and you start playing it. And Asher is a multi-talented musician. He plays violin, he plays piano, he writes music, he sings incredibly. He's in a musical theater production of Newsies right now. It's going to be out this November. Asher plays drums because he loves playing drums. I put sticks in his hand at 8 months, and it was the first time I ever put sticks in the hands of a baby. And I've had a few other grandchildren before Asher, where I stuck the sticks in his hand and he's going bam, 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 bam. And he had a steady beat. So I knew Asher had that drummer thing in him, just like his dad, just like his Poppy. So him playing Africa was awesome. I was filming it. You can see me all over the video in the other camera shots. Problem was I didn't turn the video on. So I'm a pretty terrible cameraman. That's what I'll say about that. So with that said, I just wanted to give kudos to Asher, and Asher's got over 500 views in a couple days. So real kudos to Asher. I think he's a budding star on YouTube one of these days. And maybe one day we'll do a cover together. We'll do a collaboration or something. You know how important collaborations are for drummers on YouTube. So I've done a few, but I don't do a lot. But I'd like to do one with Asher someday. That'd be fun. So anyhow, I've got a bunch of questions. Not a lot to say about life other than that. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was about my video recordings lately. I've been having some issues with Final Cut and pixelations. If any of you guys know anything about Final Cut and know what causes this pixelation problem, I've looked it up on YouTube and on Google, and what I've come up with is, I really think what the problem is, I've been writing and writing and writing on this hard drive, and I think this hard drive really needs to be cleaned off in a serious way. It's probably time for that. Don't know what I'm going to do next with that, but it's kind of hamped my style lately. So I'm having to spend a little more time on video than I like to. I'm pretty fast. I crank stuff out. So I might record it quick, but then I like to do my post just as quick. And now this new pixelation problem's got me rendering videos and then watching them, and if they have problems, going back and trying to fix those frames. And if I can't fix those frames, replacing them with a different piece of video. and then throwing away the renders and re-rendering it again and letting it all get perfect before I render. Anyhow, all that to say is I apologize for some of my videos that have got the pixelating going on. Sorry about that. Anybody an expert on that? Shoot me a line. Love to talk to you about it. Let's start with the questions, then we'll see where the rest of life goes this month. All right. So I'll start with this question because I think I was going to go there and what I was going to say a second ago. This comes from a video I did last month called Our Love, Don't Throw It All Away, Andy Gibb Revisited Drum Cover. And I had a drummer named Amartia 000. Hey Earl, I'm a drummer who's still learning drum set. Would like some advice on a piece you covered a while back. I don't know, it don't mean a thing. Would love to talk about it if you have some free time. Now, I'd love to talk to you too. And I do talk to people occasionally. If you strike up conversations with me on my channel, and enough times of doing that, I may give you my email address and you can write me an email and I'll try to answer questions. It's hard to answer questions about specific things like how to read music. Okay? And as a matter of fact, I think you also said something like, I recently got a sheet of music for a school drum set and I'm struggling to find a way to understand how it should sound and how to play it. If there's anything you know that would help, that I would find it very, very helpful. Okay. It's going to be hard to teach you ain't got a thing if you don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing. Because number one, there's a lot to that chart. Number one is the swing. I'm not even sure what video he's talking about because I probably did that video. It was probably one of those big band chart books. Bam, bum, ba da, boom, bum, be da, ba ba. Do dot, do dot, do dot, do dot, do dot, dot. I'm sure that's got that figure in there somewhere. Reading figures, okay, that is something that took me some real time to learn. That's not something you learn in 5 minutes. And the best way to learn it is to take that kind of music and practice with it and listen to it and pick it up that way along with the chart. And that's probably even what I did when I played it probably. Was I was doing more listening than looking at the chart. Now, some guys read real well. If you want to practice reading those types of figures, the book Syncopation is really good for practicing figures. But there's more to playing swing figures than playing rock figures. Because you can take the Syncopation book and it goes da 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 da. That's da 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 instead of da 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 da. Da 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 da, and the figure might be eighth note, quarter note, eighth note, quarter note, eighth note, quarter note, eighth note, quarter note. That may be the way it actually reads over there with little ties. Da 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 da, with it starting on with an eighth rest. Da 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 da. And it may look like it's written quarter note, eighth note, but when you're reading chart music, you're reading da 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 da. That figure looks straight, but it's swung. And that's something that's a whole nother level. That's why I teach drum lessons. And if somebody wants to take drum lessons from me, we could start working on those kinds of things. I do charge for drum lessons. I have one student that I do via right now it's through Facebook Messenger, but if somebody needs drum lessons, reach me offline. If you want to talk to me sometime, start striking up conversations on other videos, and if I can help you in some way, maybe I will shoot you my phone number and I'll have a little discussion with you. But it sounded to me like, hey Marta, you need a little bit more instruction and a little bit more of what I would call a drum lesson, and drum lessons do cost, unfortunately. So it's a little different than asking me a question like on Ask Earl Anything. But I wanted to say I'm open to that. And I've been open to talking to people on the phone or giving them my phone number so you can text me or whatever. I don't give it to everybody. I give it to people I've established some relationships with in some way. Funny thing about YouTube is there is a social media aspect to YouTube, and I am so grateful for all my subscribers and the ones especially who watch my videos every day and comment on them every day. They're more likely to get my phone number, okay? Many of you can get my email address and you can write me emails, okay? If I answer you, that's a whole other thing. And I do answer people that you wouldn't expect me to answer. Like I did this Elvis Presley song for this guy in Africa. He wanted to pick the song. I said, nah, I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to do this one. So that's the way that works too. Remember, I do things because I want to do things. That's the key to the whole thing. If I think I can help somebody, I will reach out and try to help. So depends on what day of the week it is too. So anyway, I just wanted to say, hey, Marta, if you're looking for lessons or you want to pick my brain in that way, the fastest way would to say I want to take a lesson. Then you would pay me through Venmo or PayPal, and then we would get an hour lesson out of me, and then we could see if this is what you really want to do and if I can give you the pointers you're looking for. Now, I'm not hawking lessons, by the way. I'm not looking for extra work these days. It's just something I'm saying as a service to some of you. If you really wanted to pick my brain on something, if you thought I could help you, I'd be willing to do it. So drum lessons, I guess I do drum lessons for people. All right, my next question comes from a question I got on an Ask Earl Anything from a long time ago. This was Ask Earl Anything, favorite drum book, 16-inch, 2002 thin splash, Rototoms, 20-inch. That was a couple months ago, I guess. Anyhow, the question was, how did you get the sound for Sowing the Seeds of Love cover by Tears for Fears? Okay. And that came from Agile, A-G-I-L-E 3.0. And Agile, here's how I got the drum sound for that. I watched the video before I came on. It didn't sound like I was doing anything different than I do to a lot of things. Now, a lot of things with the drum sound for a cover has to do with the snare drum I picked, the way I tune the toms, how I mic the toms. But then I think what you were really asking me about was the reverb. And I think that the effect I put on the drums is my standard gated reverb effect, but I think I put it up a notch. So it's getting more of that gated sound. Sometimes I'll use gated and reversed and a regular reverb, 3 reverbs on one drum. It's not uncommon for me to do that on a snare drum. That's part of the bigness of my sound. The other part of the bigness is the EQ of the snare drum, the Pultec EQ UAD plugin I use. The UAD plugin I use that's called SPL Transient Designer. I use that on my kick and my snare. These are all components to my sound, okay? I now have, and that cover was not done with this plugin, but I have a plugin called the Oxford Drum Gate that is killer. It's a killer plugin for drum gates. I used to always use the Logic Gate for gating my drums, and then I bought the about a year ago almost now. And I started using it on the concert toms. They got this thing called T-Towels. It's actually a preset. It's killer. You put T-Towels on double-headed toms, and it just comes down. And then you put the open one on the concert toms, and it gets bigger. And I use different gating effects depending on what I'm doing, the sound of the song I'm going after. So on that song, I think what you basically got was my Noble Cooley snare drum, tuned up a little bit with a lot of that gated reverb effect and some other reverb effect on it. Tom's had some of the gating effect on it, and that's what I used to get that sound. So no electronics were used on that particular cover. Now, I have done a couple covers where I've used electronic sounds and triggering, and I was doing that for a while in April. Bought these D-drum triggers, and then my SPD-SX just blew up. It doesn't work anymore. So I've got a drum module to an Alesis E-drum kit that one day I will hook the triggers up and again and do that, or the pads up and use it occasionally. But since the SPD-SX took the dump, I really right now have not been messing with electronics. So I got into it for about 5 minutes and then they went away. So you never know again when they may come back. Hope that answers your question, though. All right. The next question comes from Kelly KM Can Drum. KM Can Drum. Kelly Kusumato. Good friend of mine, Kelly. Done some session work for Kelly. I've actually played on his album that he released a couple years ago. He said, your drum sound, this was Consider Me Gone. This was the swing. This was the Sting swing cover, okay? So I did a couple Sting tunes the last couple months. One of them being 7 Days, which was okay. But Consider Me Gone was dum, the game, it was like a shuffle swing tune. Omar Hakim was the original drummer. He said, your drums sound perfect for this song. I love that ride. Wow. Care to share where you got it and how much? Not that I need spend more money on cymbals, but that one is just perfect. Okay. So let me tell you the ride I used on that. It was not this ride. This is my Paiste 2002 22-inch ride, which sounds beautiful, by the way. But the ride I used on it was this one, the Paiste 2002 Big Beat ride. So let me put that here for a second so I can give you the comparison for a second. It's just got a darker sound, and I think it has to do with the hammering on this cymbal. This cymbal is a 2002 B8 alloy that is hammered more in the hammering style of the Modern Essential hammering. And it came out after Vinny had his 602 Modern Essentials. And basically, I think it was 2016, I think, the year this came out. And if I look at it, it looks a lot like a Modern Essential ride cymbal, except for it's a 2002 alloy. So it's got this alloy, and it's got that lathing pattern too. I mean, the lathing pattern is very similar to the lathing pattern on this. You know, it's very thin, but then it's got that hammering. I will tell you the other difference is this weighs about 2,300 grams, and this weighs about 3,000 grams, I believe. Not sure. Let me look at that one. 3179 grams. So this is 3179 grams. And I can tell you this right now, that is not that. Why don't you want to go back on? There you go. All right. Sorry. Am I still in shot? Probably. I'm trying to bend over. Anyhow. Beautiful ride cymbal. Notice this is a little bit darker, a little bit deeper, a little bit lower pitch. That's because it's thinner. This one weighs 2266 grams. So that's the difference. This is a thinner, more like a jazz cymbal almost, with a B8 alloy, and that is a rock. This is the classic Paiste sound right here. This sound is classic. That bell is classic. I mean, the bell on this is not bad, though. I mean, I got nothing to complain about as far as the bell. It's just lower pitch. Anyhow, I like the fact I have two cymbals to choose from 22-inch range. And my other cymbal that I use occasionally, I use it on the song Just the Two of Us, is what I call my Steve Gadd ride. Steve Gadd doesn't play Paiste, he plays Zildjian, but he had a really dry ride cymbal for a long time. And this is a 20-inch Paiste Dark Energy Mark I prototype. It's very dark. I played it in Fort's Drum Closet in 2006 and bought it. Great cymbal. So, love it. Wonderful cymbal. So, anyhow, this is my thin Crash 16-inch right there. Anyhow, Kelly, I can go crazy with cymbals. The cost of that cymbal was around I think they go for around $400. I got it for closer to 300 from what I remember. That was 280, I said. Picked it up 5 years ago though. It's been a while. All right, my next question comes from Jeffrey Simard on drums, and Jeffrey asked the question, can you talk a little bit about the drum kit on Dr. My Eyes? Now, Dr. My Eyes had this 14 by 20 bass drum, and it had an 8 by 10 walnut Gretsch tom, a 9 by 13 walnut Gretsch tom, and this 16 by 16 walnut Gretsch tom. So that was the kit. Now I have the concert toms up. This is an 8 by 10 fiberglass concert tom, pearl. This is a 9 by 13 fiberglass pearl concert tom. I did a few covers where I was really digging these toms with this floor tom. So that's where these come from. You'll see those covers when they come out. One's a Three Dog Night tune. The other one is a CCM song. And there's one more I did. Can't even remember it. I did it this morning and I can't remember what it is. Is that crazy? 62 now. Just want you all to know that. So that's what's the story of this kit, as I've told many, many times, is I bought this in college, this kit. The original drums came at 8 by 12, 9 by 13, 14 by 14, 16 by 16, 14 by 20 with a snare and snare drum. I have all those toms still, all of them, and I added the 8 by 10 in 1980. It's got a square badge on it, and I added the other one in 1983, an 8 by 8, when I got married in 1983. So I think that really kind of rounds out those drums. You know what I mean? And they were my college. They were my drums from college. That's what they were. And that's the way I look at it is I bought them in 1979, and I've been playing them ever since. I've done a lot of gigs on those drums. Those drums just, they sing. So I love them. Added rims mounts to them in 1988. No, it was 87. I started in 87 buying rims mounts for those drums after I did an album in Nashville. And the drum kit was pearl fiberglass, believe it or not, except that double-headed. Had an 8 by 10 double-headed, 8 by 12 double-headed, and a 12 by 14 double-headed, all on rims mounts. Actually, it might have been a 10 by 12, 8 by 10, 10 by 12, and a 12 by 14, or yeah, I think it was that. Anyhow, so long ago, I have to find the picture of it, but they were definitely fiberglass. Matter of fact, the guy whose drums they were in Nashville took the covering off just like I did on these, and his name was, he's a famous drummer. Gosh, man, I am losing it, guys. I'm losing that sharpness I used to have for names of drummers. But anyhow, if it comes to me, I'll throw it in. But why am I telling you that? You asked me about the other kit, right? Just saying, I asked you about the walnut kit. That's the walnut kit. So, all right. The next one comes from AR drummer Adam. Adam asked lots of questions. Thank you, Adam, for asking lots of questions. You're one of my favorite questions I get. Usually come from you. This was on that same Ask Earl Anything. It must have been my last Ask Earl Anything thing. He said, what are your thoughts on using a marching snare drum, 10-inch, 12-inch depth, as a main snare drum with a drum kit? Well, Adam, if you look for a cover I did by Chris Tomlin, it's one of those worship covers I've done. I can't remember the name of that either. I'm really out of it today. Really not doing well. Just put in Chris Tomlin. Oh, I did it. Actually, I've got a couple covers where I'm using a 10 by 14 snare. The Chris Tomlin one is one of the more famous ones where I played along with that, and people have been watching that for a while. There's a video I did called Do They Know It's Christmas from 5-6 years ago now, where I have a white Yamaha 10 by 14 snare drum on that. And I also used that on a Carpenter's tune that I did that same day, if I'm not mistaken. It was Goodbye to Love, the first version of Goodbye to Love. So I think it's out there, but I sold that snare drum to one of my son-in-law's friends. His name is Ian. He's a drummer in town who would come down to the studio and jam with my son-in-law. And Ian would always pick that snare drum. And he kept picking it and picking it and picking it. And then one day Ian said, what would it cost to buy that snare drum from you? And the funny thing was, and I'm going to be honest about this, I bought that drum, that 10x14 white Yamaha snare drum, for $40. Now, it was beat up. It was missing lugs. It was missing a snare strainer on it. I had to put heads on it and a bunch of things I needed to put it back together and make it sound like something. And then I made it sound like something. It didn't look pretty, but it had that sound. For certain days, I would pull it out and have that big, deep sound, and I would play it. Ian loved this drum. So I said to Ian, Ian, I don't know what to charge you for it. I mean, what would you offer me for the drum? And he offered me a fair amount, I felt. And it was more than $40 because I wasn't selling it for $40 no matter what. That drum, $40, I put in at least 40 more bucks into it, maybe $50 into it. So he gave me a fair price. It wasn't an outlandish price. I didn't charge him like $400 for a beat up snare drum like people try to do on eBay. I think I sold it to him for like $150 to be honest. And he still plays it. But when I need that sound, I've got an 8x14 Black Magic Ludwig snare drum that's brass, black nickel brass, nickel over brass kind of snare drum. And it gets that sound if I need it. And then I've got this drum, which is my 7x14 DMR walnut drum, which I've had a long time. And this drum right here, again, gets that deeper sound if I want it. And then I've got the 6.5x14 Black Beauty that if I ash it and bring it all the way down and detune all the lugs, it'll get that sound. So you can get that deep sound without it. But there is something when you go for the higher sound, it's an interesting vibe. So I would say it's doable. I just don't see the practicality of using it all the time. And a matter of fact, even in church today, the drums are getting smaller again. I'm starting to see piccolos again. 4x14s are coming in again. 5x14s are being used a lot. I'm playing a lot of 5x14. I play my Black Beauty 5x14 all the time. I play my Noble Cooley all the time. Going for the 6.5x14 isn't happening as much where it was for about 10 years. For about 10 years, it was like 6.5x14, 7x14 was the drum I brought to every gig. And now I'm finding myself going back to bringing the 5x14. So I don't know. You probably get a good deal on one of those things too. So you might want to get one just to have one. But I've used them. And there are some covers of me using that marching snare drum. So if you look around, Do They Know It's Christmas? That one for sure I can tell you is there. And there's a Chris Tomlin song I did, which has it on there too. And I did a lesson on that Chris Tomlin song. I did the song, the cover, and a lesson about how I played it. So something to think about. Thanks for the question, Adam. The next question comes from Jonathan Lichtig. I don't know how to say your name, Jonathan, but I think it's Lichtig. And he asked, have you checked out the Gaddiments book, Steve Gadd's Gaddiments book? And the answer to that question is yes, I did. And matter of fact, I want to grab something. So I'm going to go off camera real quick. I'm still talking to you, camera. I'm still talking to you. Don't go anywhere, everybody. When Earl goes off camera, just think of Terry Keating. Terry Keating was good at doing this all the time, by the way. He would go off camera. Actually, some of my early days of Ask Earl Anything, I used to go off camera all the time. So I just wanted to pull out my new practice pad. My good friend Pat O'Donnell sent me this. This is called a Gladstone practice pad, by the way. It fits on a snare drum, and you still get the snare sound. So let me pull out a pair of sticks that have a good tip. By the way, this is a little aside. Nobody asked me this question, but These are the ProMark Rebound 5As. I've been trying out the Rebound 5As in the regular hickory type, and I have them in the fire grain. I will tell you that my biggest problem with my 5A sticks, all of them, is the tips chipped. Be it the ProMark hickories, or be it a Vader. This is an old Vader. Or be it this is a Vader. It's a pair of Vaders here. I also have the Goodwoods here somewhere. Actually, I don't have any Goodwoods here. But I've been messing with these ProMark sticks. Anyhow, I've been playing these not all the time, because I'll tell you what I don't like about them. The Rebound 5As for me. The Rebound 5As have more of the weight in the back, less in the front. And what I like about the Vader sticks, and what I like about ProMark's regular 5As, it's got more weight in the front. So with that being said, my next go round will be if I ever buy any more sticks from ProMark, the way I bought these, if I can get the fire grains in the other type of 5As, I think I will use them. But anyhow, I'm learning how to use these Rebound 5As, which are a little different feel than my Vaders. So the Vader's got more of a little front end thing, loaded weight to it, and these have less. But I will tell you the one thing about the fire grains, I haven't chipped the tips yet. I'm chewing these things, but I am not chipping the tips. So if nothing else, you want your tips to stay, these sticks will hold the tips. This is now same pair of fire grains for 3 months now. So I think I'm in my 3rd month, 2 months. Gaddiments. All right, I bought the book. I haven't got past the warm-up. I practice the warm-up all the time, though. So that warm-up, and then the other page, which is, and I'll have to do it, I shouldn't be playing that fast anyhow. It's supposed to be played at 84. I usually play it at probably about an 80. But that warm-up starts with a roll. Then it goes to another roll single stroke. So, to a paradiddle, a right paradiddle. So, right, right. That's a paradiddle one. And you play that for 4 bars, and the last bar you go, and you end on the left. And when you end on the left in the 4th bar, then you start on the left the next bar. Then ends on a right. Then you go back to rights. So that's the first of the warm-ups. The next page of the warm-ups is the one with the flams. And that one alternates every bar. So it's the same beginning part. That part is the same. Then it starts with a right paradiddle. So it's right, left, right, right. Then you do a flam tap, left flam, right flam. Ends on a flam, then you switch to the lefts. So those are the two things I know out of the Gaddiments book, which I've now taught you if you want to try to figure that out by watching my video a couple thousand times, going back and forth to it. But it's a great warm-up. I've tried some of the other pages I'm not very good at. The drags, the rudiment cues, the flammum cues. He's got some great, it's a great book. If you're a rudimental drummer, it's a great book. If you want to learn what Gadd's all about, read that book. That's Gadd. Steve Gadd is about rudiments. By the way, I've learned enough rudiments to have my Gaddisms, but not enough rudiments to consider myself good enough to play that book. But if I had all the time in the world to sit and do nothing but practice that book, that would be really helpful to me. It would have been helpful in my playing all these years, but now I've kind of got my own things I've done with certain rudiments, like paradiddle diddles and single double paradiddles, triple paradiddles. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do applying rudiments. Gadd does that, and he writes them out in this book. Great book. I recommend it. So will I ever get past page 3? Probably not at this point, but you never know. One day I might learn another page. So I have a good friend, Marco, who DeCiccio. I just butchered your name, Marco. I know I did. I know I butchered your name, Marco. I'm sorry. But Marco bought the book, and he kept trying to encourage me to keep going with it. So I've been trying. I bought it about a year ago. I'm still messing with it, though. I haven't given it up. So anyhow, DeCiccio. Marco DeCiccio. Anyhow, I think that's how you say it. He actually did a drum cover on my channel here, and I actually interviewed him for my channel. Somewhere in there, he's in there somewhere. With a lot of other people, by the way, I've done. All right, this next question comes from Christopher Scamby. He said, is that a 20-inch giant beat multi on your right? Sounds good. The hi-hat sound phenomenal as well, but mostly the playing is so musical. Thank you very much. On this particular cover, I used 15-inch giant beats, and it was a 20-inch giant beat multi. One of my favorite combinations, as many of you know, on the Concert Tom kit is using the 18-inch 2002 Crash with the 20-inch giant beat multi, which is a great ride cymbal, crash cymbal. So, but I have other giant beats. I have an 18-inch giant beat. I have a 24-inch giant beat. I have the 15-inch giant beat hats. Great cymbals. Giant beats, love them. They got their thing. 2002's got their thing. You put them together. They kind of work together. So, very cool stuff. I will tell you my newest Paiste in my collection is this Paiste PSTX, which, I don't know. I'm using it as a hi-hat sometimes. I'm using it as a splash cymbal sometimes. Sometimes I mount it up like this over top of a Paiste PST7 splash bottom. I don't know. I use it that way. Sometimes I do this. Where the Gladstone pad has to come off. It's a very interesting sound. You can tighten up the hi-hat, of course, too. Anyhow, I just wanted to show you that. I don't know why. It's sitting there, that's why, I think. Okay. My next question comes from, okay. This comes from Tai Hung Pham. I doubt he's going to watch this. He might, you know. Hung Pham. Tai Hung Pham. Pham. Hey Earl, great video you have here. I just wanted to ask you about what you did to soundproof your studio. I can see you don't have acoustic foam on your entire wall. What should I know? Okay, I don't have acoustic foam on my wall. Matter of fact, I have some acoustic foam. This studio is not soundproof. I think there's a difference between sound absorption and soundproofing. Now, soundproofing is when you build a room within a room. So you've got barrier walls. You build a wall inside the walls of that room with about 6 inches at least of airspace between those walls, double sheetrocked on one side and then the other side, double sheetrocked, closed-in walls against another wall, and that soundproofs it. That makes the room soundproof. This is what we call sound absorption, and the point of sound absorption is to make a room deader and more ready to record in, so that your mics sound okay. If you're in a big hollow room, like a big cinder block garage like this was, it's unwieldy. You can't imagine what drums sound like in that. It doesn't sound pretty, especially when the walls might even be close to standing waves because they're almost square. Now, my walls are not square in the studio. My walls have some angles over there in that corner, those corners, but it still needed the sound absorption. So I'm not soundproofing. If you're looking for soundproofing, you need a whole nother concept. And you also might need to do something with the floor, like build a false floor, put it up on hockey pucks, especially if you're on a second floor or a third floor. Below you is going to get just so much sound. My friend Pat, who gave me the Gladstone pad, he basically built a studio in his basement, but his ceiling was letting the sound of the basement get upstairs, so he had to do something in the ceiling and put rubber over it. And it gets crazy. If you really want to soundproof, you can spend a lot of money soundproofing, double sheetrocking, and all kinds of stuff. So, again, what am I trying to say to you? What's the moral of the story here? This is sound absorption. The purpose of these diamonds is they change the sound of my room. They change the sound of my room where I don't have a 400 kilohertz honk in my snare drum. Some of my early recording sessions, I used to have a rug on this wall. Rugs on the wall don't necessarily help. I've learned that because that honk was in my previous studio. I had it on the wall, but I didn't have anything else to put there on it. In this studio, it had a pronounced honk at 400K that I couldn't get rid of that nasty sound. So that's the problem. Matter of fact, every once in a while in that room, I get a 400K honk, and I've got a lot of blankets and all kinds of weird stuff in there to kill that room. So this room is very live, my other studio room, which is dark right now, but that's where the concert tom kit is, the main concert tom kit with all the toms. This is just 2 extra toms hanging around. But I think that's the difference. I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about sound absorption versus soundproofing. My studio is not soundproof. Now, I happen to be at the end of a road. There's no through traffic. There's no truck traffic unless we've got the UPS guy or the guy delivering the water bottles for my water in my house or my studio. That's the only time I ever get trucks down this road, and the garbage truck. So normally when I'm recording, I'm not getting those truck sounds or traffic sounds. So I don't need soundproofing. My neighbors might want me to soundproof, but I don't even record late at night. I mean, the latest I ever record is up till 10, and I've never had the police here because I was recording at 10 o'clock at night or playing or practicing in here. I don't really practice in here anymore, but I've had a couple recording sessions later at night. My son-in-law have had this studio going crazy at times late at night, and I still never gotten the cops here. So all that to say is soundproofing is needed in certain situations. I don't need soundproofing. I use it for sound absorption to get the sound of the room to sound right to record in. So that's why I have foam on the walls. All right? Anyhow, that's the extent of that. So, all right, my next question comes from Steve Zinn. And Steve Zinn is one of my followers on YouTube. And this was about Feels Like Making Love, Roberta Flack, which I got unblocked, by the way. Still playing the YouTube block game. Okay, last week I got Radar Love by Golden Earring, blocked. One of my subscribers, her name's Elaine. She's been asking me to do Golden Earring, Radar Love. I wanted to do it. Put it up on Instagram, by the way. If you want to see Radar Love, it's on Instagram. Most of it's on Instagram. One day I will put it on YouTube when it gets released. Roberta Flack got released. When Roberta Flack got released, I put it out. So I check my blocked videos periodically. I don't throw blocked videos away. I put everything up on YouTube in private mode. Nothing goes to YouTube except in private mode in case it comes back blocked. So I'm not getting strikes, copyright strikes, when I put up a video. I think that's probably why I've avoided copyright strikes. But I've had a couple. I had another video last week besides Golden Earring. It was Have You Never Been Mellow by Olivia Newton-John. Again, another subscriber asked me to play Olivia Newton-John. I played the cover. It was cleared. I saw it was cleared. It said copyright. What do they call it? They have a name. It's like for copyrights. It wasn't even partially blocked, because I have a Billy Joel in the can right now that's partially blocked. That doesn't mean I can't release it. It just means certain subscribers will not see it. This was fine. You know, copyright, it's the same one I always get. The copyright's there. They're going to take the money. I don't care. Take the money. I don't really give a crap about that. Put up Never Been Mellow. 3 people saw it, and then all of a sudden nobody could see it. And I realized it's blocked. They blocked it. They blocked it after I put it up. Now that really stinks, if you ask me. It's one thing to find it blocked. It's another thing to have it blocked after you put it up. That happened with a John Lennon song this year. I've had a bunch of songs where it gets blocked, but I haven't got strikes for it. So thank you, Jesus, I don't get copyright strikes, because I only have one YouTube channel. I was watching Drumman 190's show when he was interviewing the guy that goes by Mr. JJ. I mentioned him in a video not too long ago. Some of you went and watched some of his videos. Mr. JJ has been playing drums a long time on YouTube. He's had 3 YouTube channels. He's got 2 of them copyright striked off the block. Anyhow, he started a second channel just to deal with in case he ever gets a copyright strike. And the first channel got taken down. So I think he's on his 3rd channel right now. He was talking about on Matthew's video. But bottom line is, I'm not starting another YouTube channel to store other videos. I mean, I have all my videos, and if I ever got taken down, I would start putting my other videos back up, and I'd start from scratch again. That would really suck, though, I have to tell you, if I just had to start from scratch and do it again. But I have a lot of content. That's the one thing I have. I have blocked videos. I've got alternate take videos. I've got redo videos. I think I've got pretty much 1,500 videos sitting around here right now. And if I ever got taken down for some reason, I would have to start up somewhere else and back at it again. But probably monetizing the videos wouldn't be my priority at that point. But anyhow, here's Steve Zinn's question. Sorry, Steve, I went off on this. Here's the question. He says, just wondering if you preferred to bury the beater or play off the bass drum head. Now, let's talk about burying the beater versus playing off the bass drum head. So burying the beater sounds like this. You're playing the beater into the head. That's burying the beater. Playing off the beater is you're pulling the beater off the head. So, which one do I play? I play both. There's no doubt about it. I play both. There are days where the sound of the bass drum I want is the sound of the drum buried beater. And there's other days I want the bass drum to sound like pulling the bass drum, the big fat bass out of the bass drum. And then I pull the beater off the head. I would say that burying the beater doesn't help my bass drum technique. It hasn't helped my timing with the bass drum. I think that's probably where I learned to play a little ahead with my kick, because I tend to lay my stuff, kick drum, a little ahead. I think I'm always a little ahead on the kick drum, which doesn't make me a good studio drummer, by the way. I've watched myself in Logic for years on the grid. And there are those guys that just sit back. On the beat is fine. If you play a little ahead, it's a negative for you. So I've kind of learned that. I practice trying to get it right, trying to get it exact. I wish I was John Robinson. I wish I had that heartbeat time. I don't. I know I can see my problems. I hear my problems. But when it comes to sound, that's what I'm going after. So I do pull it off the head, where I'm not burying the beater, but there are times I'm burying it. That's burying the beater. The other thing is when I'm not burying the beater, I'm usually playing flat-footed. And when I'm playing a lot of the rock stuff, my leg is up and I'm playing on my toe. So that's why I tend to bury the beater. It's a lot harder to play with your leg up and pull the bass drum beater back. It's a lot harder. It's not impossible. I see guys do it. They're great at it. I just wish it was me. Anyhow, my technique is my technique now. And that's one of the things I've grown to learn about my playing, is that I play like I play. Like somebody was telling me about my grip the other day. I wish I put it in Ask Earl Anything. I don't think I did. I don't think it's one of the questions. But no, it's not. But somebody was looking at my video and they called this, they looked at my hand technique and they gave me a name to it. I said, I never heard that before. So apparently there's a hand technique where you're playing between your finger and your thumb, your middle finger and your thumb. And because I watch myself on video a lot. Okay, one of the things I've learned about myself is listening and watching, doing both. I listen, like I'll do tracks and I will not watch the video, and I'll just listen and hear how I'm sitting in the track. And then there's times I'll do a video and I'll watch myself. And one of the things that appalled me at first was this thing where I do with my hand, where this finger comes out, right? Well, apparently that is something, that's a technique, that there's a name for that technique. And a lot of guys do it. It's not just me. So it's not something I invented. It's something I see guys doing, and it's got some relevance to it. So playing like this, that's your fulcrum right there. I have a tendency to go to that. Now I teach kids to play this way, but I don't stay there. And when I turn my hand over, a lot of times I'm doing this. I'm sitting it in that spot right there. So technique is one of those things that I don't analyze enough. I know what I do wrong. I know what I could do better. Doesn't mean I have the time to practice to change it, though. That's the problem. So that's my thought on that, Steve. But I use both techniques all the time. All right, my last question comes from Durango88. He says, hey, Earl, do you ever get asked to play in bands? He goes, band tours to city. Sometimes the drummer is ill and they can't play a gig. Are you a substitute drummer that can fill in? Thanks, man. I'm so sorry for your son. Oh, that you basically watched that one, the one where I talked about my son, apparently. This was Ask Earl Anything, 2 drummers, hearing protection, drum kits owned, sticks, regrets. Yes and yes. I do get asked to play in bands, and I have subbed for drummers that have gotten sick. I've gotten called to do that. There was a worship artist, a guy who played worship music in churches. His name was, oh my gosh. Jason, what was Jason's last name? He was big for a while. Anyhow, my friend Michael Terrell was playing with him, and the drummer got sick, got food poisoning or something, went home early, or stayed at the hotel, I can't remember which, and they called me up and said, hey man, can you play? And I went in and played the gig. You know, I've done that for a lot of people. I've played gigs for people since I was 19. That's what I've done. I've been a ringer, going in and playing gigs. So this is not something that I'm not familiar with. Matter of fact, when I play in churches a lot of times, I'm subbing for a different drummer, their main drummer. I'm just going in and playing. I do that a lot, actually. That's kind of my specialty, is to be able to go in and out of things. I get asked to be in bands. I've been asked to be in a few bands. I'm not taking those requests right now. I'm really not in band drummer mood. It's kind of funny. You get older in life and you played a lot of gigs and you've been out in clubs and all that. It's not appealing to me to play in clubs right now. Every once in a while, I'll see a good lounge band, you know, that plays Great American Songbook and people are dancing, you know, Sinatra and all that kind of stuff. And I'll say to myself, wow, that's the kind of gig I like to do, especially if my wife was singing. If Steph was singing and we had a band around her singing, that would be a lot of fun to do that. But that's the only way I'm ever going to get it back on a bandstand, really, again, in any kind of capacity where I'm doing a lot, is if I'm probably playing with my wife. I don't see me taking any gigs anymore, unless it's to fill in for somebody. And even the last band I was in, called the Swigs, I left the band and then they got a gig and they needed a drummer and they called me up. I said, yeah, I'll come play. And I played it. I had the repertoire down, you know. I had 80 songs in my head somewhere. I have a lot of songs in my head. If you can see how many songs I play, and I play them relatively quick, most of these songs will stay in my head. I'll basically be able to play these songs on a gig if somebody called me up, the way they were played on the record. Of course, I'll adapt it to the band I'm playing with. And that's the other art to playing with other bands, is being able to play the music with the group of musicians you're playing with. Because the music does change from the record when you play with a group of musicians. So keep that in mind. That's a really important aspect of it. But yeah, I do get called to do gigs periodically. It's just not something on my radar right now. So, but thanks for the question. Anyhow, that's Ask Earl Anything. I didn't have any video questions this month. But your questions make the show, and if I have questions, I love answering the questions as best I possibly can. I love video questions, so if you send me video questions, you'll definitely get on the show. You're not going to see big changes to my channel. There's nothing big change happening in the future. I'm just going to keep putting out videos and having fun with it. So I probably will do some more shows with my wife. Those have gone over pretty well. I probably will continue to work on picking songs I love to play. So never know what that might be. Could be a prog rock song like the Kansas song last week. Could be a jazz song. Could be a swing song. Could be Brushes. Could be a Partridge Family. You just don't know what the heck I'm going to put out on a daily basis. But the one thing's for sure, I'm going to have fun, and that's what I'm doing. When it's not fun, you won't see my face. So keep that in mind. You guys make it fun, and you guys inspire me to keep doing it. So remember that. Thank you for watching. Your comments, leave comments, thoughts, whatever. And I will continue on doing things. This month, I could be on a couple interview shows on YouTube. My friend Brian Gibbons interviewed me, and I think I may be on the Drum Addicts show getting interviewed sometime this month. It may come out in November. I have no idea. I love doing interviews, so if anybody asks me to do interviews, I usually say yes, you know. And hopefully I'll be interviewing some more drummers too in the future. So that's it for me, man. That's all I got this month. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.